Joining us now, I'm delighted she's with us. It's been a long time. Kellyanne Conway is, of course, senior advisor to the Trump transition team. I keep saying the Trump campaign. I can't say Trump transition. It always comes out Trump campaign, and former campaign manager. The first female campaign manager, successful, of course, propelling Trump to victory. And she joins us now. I'm delighted she's with us. Kellyanne, thanks so much for joining us. Merry Christmas to you and George and the kids.
Oh, Merry Christmas to you and your family, Laura. Thank you for that. It's going to be a great 2017, I assure you.
Let's talk about what happened yesterday in Europe. More carnage, more Islamic jihadists doing their dirty deeds. How do we prevent this from happening in the United States? You know, I've heard President-elect Trump talk about extreme vetting, but how do you vet these people?
Well, first, Laura, it's another sad chapter in what continues to be the advance of ISIS. And as you know, the way we came out of Iraq created this vacuum. And they're letting their carnage and their bloodletting go on our shores, certainly, and across Europe and elsewhere. It's part of how President-elect Trump won. I mean, people want toughness. They want specific policies. He talks about the extreme vetting. Essentially, his point is that there are countries that train and harbor and export terrorists, ISIS terrorists. And we have to, in those countries, we have really very poor, if any, policies in place that allow us to know what's going on there and who's coming out of there and perhaps coming here. You remember when the Syrian refugees started spilling over the borders and into Europe and into some of our states where these governors would allow it. What happened was ISIS basically said, hey, we'll come into the United States and Europe as a Syrian refugee. Why not? So they put us on notice that the vetting process is underserved, is underwhelming, is incomplete, and that they would, of course, poke holes in it if they could. So this is serious stuff. He talks about that, but he also talks about locking arms with other allies across the globe to try to defeat radical Islamic terrorism. It's a continuing concern. Security was a big issue in this campaign. It'll be a big centerpiece of his presidency, early and often. It's everything from opiate use, and financial security, healthcare security, crime and drugs, and certainly national security and terrorism.
Well, I think the concern is that we have hundreds of thousands of people who come into the United States legally through either family connections or for jobs, other legal immigrants, people who are allowed to come here for a variety of reasons, from these terrorist hotbeds. Right now they come into the country. Is that going to be changed under a Trump administration?
That is very much in our sights because, as you point out, the statistics suggest that this is the biggest problem. Also, visa overstays. So whether you're here on a work visa, a school visa, a tourist visa, and we all remember, Laura, that in the San Bernardino massacre a year or so ago, that she came in on a fiancé visa. People had never even, I've talked to federal judges who were unaware of a K-1 visa, and it struck a lot of people as, well, how do they get here in the first place? How do we not know who's living among us? That's really the major concern people have. They know how the trillions and gazillions of dollars that we all spend as taxpayers on these matters. It's not a matter of funding. It's a matter of will. It's a matter of putting aside the political correctness, frankly, and recognizing that, and that's what this president is going to first protect: America, Americans, America interests, America allies, here and abroad. And it's that simple. But this is very easy to just have people say, you can look the other way, or if you see something, say something. That's not a policy. That's a slogan. And so he's going to get tough on it, and people don't like what he has to say, but too bad. In other words, most Americans, particularly those who rejected the elitism, they're saying, yes, we need these tougher policies. We need stronger vetting. If people want to come here legally, go for it. We're still the most generous country in the world, practically, when it comes to legal immigration. That's not what this issue is about. This issue is about knowing who lives among us and being fair to the American worker, but also be fair to a sovereign nation that has borders and whose protection of its people and its interests are the first duty of any president and commander-in-chief.
Yeah, it's just hard. We can't keep ahead of the radicalization, Kellyanne, of legal residents in the United States, let alone bringing in more people.
That's
just
right.
given how the internet,
and let alone the lone wolf, let alone the lone wolf terrorism that gets radicalized online. That's exactly right, Orlando.
I saw a comment by Newt Gingrich. I guess this was yesterday, kind of late yesterday on NPR. He was on the Diane Rehm show, and he said and he advocated that Congress should change the ethics laws for Donald Trump, and he's arguing that because never before, he said, have we had a president who has such a diverse portfolio of business interests. He said we've never seen this kind of wealth in the White House, so traditional rules don't work. Now, I have a question for you. I mean, you guys campaigned on draining the swamp, and traditional rules now don't work and don't apply to Trump, or is that something you guys are going to advocate, or is that just something Gingrich is floating on his own?
Well, it's certainly the speaker coming up with, I think, an alternative, a creative alternative to what is an unprecedented situation. I mean, obviously, Laura, that we normally have presidents in both parties who just move from political job to political job. So they already know all the rules. They obviously haven't created tens of thousands of jobs and have assets across the globe on many continents and many different successful business interests, which Donald Trump and his family do. Probably Speaker Gingrich is also sensitive to the time here. We're very close. We're 1 month away from him being the President of the United States. Literally today, it's December 20th. He'll be sworn in on January 20th. And so time is of the essence, and people do modify rules according to the needs of the moment, but we have not discussed that internally, and I haven't heard anybody producing dropping legislation to that effect. But I suppose it's a possibility. Here's the thing, though. Those in Congress and those on the other side, basically the political opponents, the election deniers, who are threatening, harassing, and intimidating our electors, who are doing #NotMyPresident, who continue to protest because they think it's easier than showing up at work every day. These people they're going to continue to burrow into his business interests because they're going to continue to try to delegitimize his election.
Well, he's also said, though, which I think one of the things that Donald Trump said, which I think was so refreshing to so many people at the time, and I think he's repeated it recently, that it's not about his business at this point. I mean, he said that, and he said that at a debate. He said that recently. So it's not about his business. So if it's not about his business, why not divest himself of these interests? I mean, he himself has said that, and he said drain the swamp.
All of that is being discussed. Yeah, all of that is being discussed and frankly organized, because there are protocol officers, there are lawyers. There's great expense, frankly, to the Trump family in trying to figure this out. And there also is, people should realize how much they've sacrificed financially and otherwise just for him to run for president and now serve as president. It's not a matter of, I can't get a grossly overpaid speaking circuit tour going here. It's you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in deals that either were never consummated, were never pursued, and frankly can't be in the future without him. So that aside, it is complex, but it is being worked on feverishly. I know that because I confer with the people who are working on it routinely, so I make sure that I know what's happening. But look, you can drain the swamp. You can organize your affairs and still drain the swamp. And let me just say, in this amazing platform that is your radio show, Laura, let me put everybody on notice. Draining the swamp is not just about lobbyists and politicians, and it's also about consultants. I mean, let me just say, and I know many of them are nervous because they were so wrong yet again, and they were so anti-Trump up until the last moment. The rest of us will never work in this town again, and blah, blah, blah. Let me say that he is somebody who was able to run his campaign the way he runs most of his operations, which is under budget and on schedule and with great success when you compare it to other traditional campaigns, particularly on the Republican side. Well, we are cleaning up what I have referred to as for years as staph infection.
No. I love that staph infection. That's great.
But it's true.
I love that. I love double entendre.
There you go. That's right. We are going to inoculate, immunize, and eliminate what I call staph infection. There's no more no-show jobs for consultants.
Good.
Gross retainers who haven't come up with a creative idea in 22 years, and frankly never saw this coming. Don't even understand America. So that part of draining the swamp, while he's draining it, I'm not going to let anybody throw more crocodiles into it.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that to you.
Yeah. What I think is it's you can see what they're going to do. The reason I'm asking you about it is because they're going to, what they're going to do. Every foreign policy decision, every business decision for America, the left is going to seize on, well, you were successful and you had all these things on. Well, yeah, he was a really successful businessman. So you don't want any successful business people to ever run for president. You don't want any successful business people to ever be in the cabinet, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean,
that's right.
You have to be able to have people who are successes in other fields be interested in trying to help America. Otherwise, we're going to get the same hacks we've gotten year after year. But you guys are going to come out with some announcement, right, in early Jan or something like that? Kellyanne, is there some January announcement?
Yes, that is the plan. That's right. It'll be a January announcement just to give more time to make sure that his, as you say at the beginning, his diverse and considerable portfolio of holdings, that's all sorted out, that you put the proper protocol and structures in place, and it's being worked on round the clock. So they just need more time to do that. But obviously, he will be forthcoming and transparent about the decisions.
And now, what are you going to do in the administration, Kellyanne? We've heard that you're going in, you're going out, and you're like one of the most prominent women in politics, analysis, polling in the United States. So what's next for you?
Well, I appreciate that. I'll continue to serve with him. It's all on the table. He's been incredibly, the president-elect and the vice president-elect, who I've worked with for a decade, Laura, they've been incredibly generous in terms of offering me positions, the latitude, the understanding that, like you, I have small children. And when I say small, I mean at those ages where 12, 8, and 7, where, you need to be front and center. But I know it's going to be a family-friendly White House, and I already see it. In the case of Donald Trump, his daughter has 3 children. His daughter-in-law has 5. I've seen him up close and personal with his children and grandchildren, with Barron and Melania, of course, 10-year-old son, and a wife to whom he's incredibly close. They're a fabulous partnership, loving relationship, very supportive of each other. So it's great I've witnessed firsthand who he is as a person, how supportive he is of his family and other people's families. So that's not an issue for me. It's just a matter of where can I serve them best? Is it outside running that political superstructure so that I am in the face every single day, Laura, as you will be, of those 10 Democratic senators who are up for re-election in 2018 in states that Donald Trump just won? I want them to every day to be thinking about supporting his
expanding
tax plan and repealing and replacing Obamacare. I mean, look, President Bush got through his tax plan in June of 2001.
I remember.
And he did it with the help of Democratic senators. The Democrats controlled the Senate. But he had the folks who were running for re-election in 2002 on his side. Sure. They didn't want to vote against a major tax relief package and then face re-election. So there's a lot of merit to doing that, but it's also very difficult, whether it's through, I think mostly through duty and honor and sheer service and humility. Frankly, it's very difficult to say no to a major West Wing position where you feel you can impact.
Yeah, you can make a difference
in a very positive fashion.
Yeah, and I think I think it's nice to have a woman's perspective too. I mean, not to sound like a feminist, but I think it's. No doubt. It's nice to have that.
Because you're not a feminist. I actually think you belive that because we're not feminists.
Right. Good point.
You're saying it for the right reason.
Yeah. Hey, Kellyanne, and finally, there's a question, a really important question I have to ask you about. Who's producing the music at the inaugural? Raymond Arroyo's here, and he's like, okay, Sinatra did the 1980 Reagan inaugural, right, Raymond?
Reagan and the Kennedy inaugural.
And the Kennedy.
So, Kellyanne, answer the big question.
The big question.
Who's producing the inaugural gala?
Who is it?
Well, I do know the answer to that, but I can't reveal it because it'd be unfair for me to be the breaking news person here.
But
I think you're going to be very impressed. These are Donald Trump's selections, and he's been weighing in quite a bit on that.
Excellent.
And we've had some fun with it. But don't believe everything you read.
Okay. All right.
And I'm telling you, it'll be really fun. And I turned 50 on Inauguration Day, so there will be dancing, I promise.
Woo!
I don't know about karaoke, but there will be dancing.
All right. Now, that's a real party. Kellyanne Conway, have a wonderful Christmas. Give my best to George and the kids, and can't wait to see you down here in Washington. And congratulations on all the success of the last year. We really appreciate it.